Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone SE 2022 model, aka the iPhone SE 3, and see how this particular iPhone holds up in 2025. Now, here's the thing, okay? The iPhone SE 3, I think this is one of the more perplexing decisions Apple's ever made. I don't think it's a bad phone in some ways, but I just think it's an overpriced phone in a majority of ways. So if you probably want to just, pick up some iPhones that I would already recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the iPhone SE 2025 model, the thing you're going to have to keep in mind here, the thing you're going to have to remember is that with the iPhone SE 3, this phone originally came out in 2022. So this phone is a little bit older now. It's about 3 years old. It's approaching 3 years old. And the thing you're going to have to remember here with this type of device is that it is basically starting to, it started to show its age when it initially came out. When it first came out, it was already somewhat of an outdated device, I'm going to be honest. So when you look at the outside, you're getting a 4.7-inch Retina IPS LCD panel. That is already somewhat of an outdated type of display. That's an outdated type of, panel already when it comes down to it. So again, that's not the biggest deal in the world. There's IPS panels that still look amazing, but this thing on a phone like this, especially for that price, I thought was kind of overpriced for what you're getting. Now you're also getting very thick bezels on this phone too. You're getting that top, bezel and the bottom bezel as well with that home button. The reason why that home button is very, very annoying for me is because you're kind of getting this archaic style of communicating with your phone. Instead of swiping up or using your gestures to basically swipe to your phone, you have to basically rely on that button to take you home, to get into recents, even to unlock your phone. It just seems kind of an outdated thing. I like Touch ID, I love Touch ID, but on a phone, I guess, Face ID is the way Apple decided to go, and it feels a little bit outdated to not use a phone with gestures and with Face ID. So kind of keep that in mind. That is kind of a thing that ages this phone a lot. But also, you're getting a lightning port on this phone too. So lightning is one of those things where, it's the older style of charging, and that is a little bit outdated already when it comes down to it as well. So there's a lot of things here where I look at, and it genuinely just doesn't make a lot of sense to go and buy this type of phone because it's already kind of outdated. Single camera setup on the backside, standard glass back, things like that. So once again, you're stuck in the situation where this phone is just kind of outdated. I think there are significantly better phones out there for not that much more money, but this one definitely shows its age. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to go and buy it anymore, if I'm being honest. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there as well. Now, on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here is actually when it comes down to the price tag. So this phone right now is basically costing $429 in the brand new market. There's about to be a successor of this thing, the iPhone SE 4th generation. That one is basically probably coming out in the next couple of months. So that one presumably will take that price. But with this iPhone, even at $400, even at $329, probably even at $229, this phone is an overpriced phone, right? This phone is significantly overpriced. In the used market, you can buy this thing for about $180. And even that, I think, is an overpriced device too. So there's a lot of things here. There's a lot of, things that I kind of look at this type of device, and I genuinely just think it is kind of an overpriced device when it comes down to it. So from a price tag standpoint, that's kind of how I see it. Again, not the biggest deal in the world, but that is just one thing that I'll probably notice there. So from a price tag standpoint, from the exterior standpoint, that is a little bit of the layout that I kind of notice with this type of phone when it comes down to it. Now, beyond that, another very big thing to keep in mind here too is that with the iPhone SE 3rd generation, this type of phone is giving you a single camera setup on the backside. So with this type of, camera, it is a pretty basic type of layout. It's not really that great of an experience, to be honest, here either. So this phone is basically, it's a 12 megapixel wide angle camera on the back, and it's a 7 megapixel, front facing camera. So you're getting 4K at 60 resolution on the backside, and you're getting, 1080p at 120 frames per second on the front. Now, I will tell you, as you probably would have guessed it, it just doesn't make, once again, a lot of sense to go and buy a phone like this at this level. The camera quality is one thing, right? It's not even that bad of a camera quality. It's actually more so of just the lack of multiple lenses and the resolution on the front side. So the back side, single 12 megapixel lens is not really that bad. But, I will say as of now, that front camera lacking 4K at any resolution or any frame rate is very concerning. right? You should have a camera on the front side that's a little bit better, but also on the back side, it'd be nice to have a camera that's giving you multiple lenses. This camera is not really giving you any multiple lenses in this situation. So that right there is another very, concerning thing going on for this type of device too. So once again, personally for me, I think if I'm going to go through and get a device, like I mentioned, that is probably going to be one area you're probably going to notice where it may not be the best type of experience, but it's not terrible. But that is just one of those other areas where you might notice here in this particular situation as well. Now, beyond that, another very important thing to keep in mind here is when it comes down to its software longevity. So this type of phone, for the most part, you're kind of in that type of situation where this phone, it's not going to be supported forever, but right now it's still supported with software. So that is kind of a nice thing going on here. This phone is still going to be supported with software. You're not really going to be, messing up on too many things when it comes down to that side. So I think that right there is kind of an important thing to keep in mind. So with this phone in and of itself, you're basically going to be going through and, getting a phone that's going to be supported with software, for now. It does have the same chipset as the iPhone 13. So because of that, you're still going to be getting a phone that's still going to be giving you pretty decent type of experience when it comes down to that, especially when it comes down to the performance. But this phone, from a software longevity standpoint, it's not really going to be lasting forever. It's not going to be lasting that long. So because of that, once again, you're in the situation where, maybe it'd be best to not, look at this phone as the phone that's going to be lasting forever, but it's still going to be here for a little bit. But the biggest issue I've had with this phone is probably battery life. Now that we're on iOS 18, this phone is basically going to be giving you, it's going to be giving you a 2018 milliamp-hour battery inside of it. So that right there is a very interesting thing going on for this phone too, because the battery size and the battery life in this phone really isn't that, it's not that much battery life inside of it. So that right there is another one of those, issues going on for this type of device too. So again, not that big of a deal, but at the end of the day, that's going to be another one of those things you're going to be experiencing here as well. Finally, when it comes down to the performance, you're going to be getting that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM. So once again, if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, the layout of this type of phone, the capability behind it, it's going to be still a very fast performing phone, right? There's a lot of things you can kind of hate on this type of device, but the performance level, is still one of those things that still holds up fairly well. That is something that I like about this phone, is that it's not going to feel super, slow. It's not going to feel super bad. The only thing that is kind of concerning with this phone is the fact that you have to continuously hit that, home button over and over again. So that right there can be one of the more annoying things going on for this type of device. So if you wanted to go through and get a phone you're not going to have to continuously hit that home button, then you're going to have to look elsewhere. But in this case, this phone, in my opinion, still performance-wise holds up fairly well. And that's the thing about the iPhone SE3, is that you can kind of complain about this phone a lot of different ways, but I would probably say that the performance of this phone is still up there. So I would say I probably would not recommend any single person at all to go and buy something like an iPhone SE3. I don't think it makes any sense at all. However, I do think there are probably better phones out there for not that much more money. I think the iPhone 13 is one of those phones that I would highly recommend people to buy. That one makes a lot more sense to go and pick up. I think an iPhone 13 Pro would be a really good upgrade. iPhones like that I think are very much worth buying. I just think this iPhone in particular isn't really worth buying in this day and age. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.